Good morning, members. We have a quorum and it's the appointed time. First of all, I ask members to endorse the minutes of the last meeting, which took place on the 30th of October last year. The Secretariat has not received any proposals for amendment. Can we confirm the minutes then? After the last meeting, we have received a number of documents. You'll find the information of these documents on the agenda. The next meeting will take place on the 22nd of February. The administration proposes to discuss two items. First, certificate of particulars of motor vehicle and Kam-lam Tin Tunnel detailed design and site investigation. Members, any questions? Chairman, we've just received two information paper, one related to Route 3 and the other one related to the proposed increase in Western Harbour Crossing Tolls. In principle, they don't have to seek our approval, but we would like to discuss it. The proposed increase of Harbour Crossing Tolls of the Western Harbour is a public concern, so I ask for this to be discussed next time. The next meeting will take place in the second half of February. Yes, 22nd of February. We think the fare adjustment mechanism should be discussed before March. You mean the one related to the MTRC? Yes, otherwise we'll not have time. Let's find out if the administration is prepared. Mr. Wong Kok-king, you have raised your hand. It is in relation to the next item. So, Dr. Kwok-Ki proposed to discuss the proposed increase of toll fees of the two tunnels. We'll put this on the agenda. Mr. Tan-Ka-Bill proposed to discuss the fare adjustment mechanism of the MTRC. The administration plans to come back to us for a discussion. So let's see when they will have all the preparations ready, and if need be, we'll have a special meeting. There are no other questions. We will have the next agenda. Is briefing by the Secretary for Transport and Housing on the transport policy initiatives featuring in the Chief Executive 2013 policy address. Can we invite the administration to come in, please? Welcome, Professor Anthony Cheung, Secretary for Transport and Housing, Mr. Joseph Lai, Permanent Secretary for Transport and Housing, Mr. Yao Xingmu, Undersecretary for Transport and Housing, Mrs. Ingrid Yang, Commissioner for Transport, Mr. Peter Lau, Director of Highways, Ms. Rebecca Poon, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Housing, and Mr. Andy Chan, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Housing. Secretary, when you're ready. Members, the Chief Executive announced the policy address last Wednesday, and I will go over the four key policies in relation to transport. First is to improve interchange and also bus routes rationalization. Rationalization of bus routes is a key area of our work. And this actually is a standing work of ours. Over the years, we have rationalized 88 routes, and so the number of number of buses running on the road has been reduced by 580. We would like to take a macro approach by way of an area approach, because rationalization of bus routes should not be done on an individual route basis. It should take into account the overall transportation network in the district so that different routes can complement one another. So while reducing underutilized routes or even cancelling them, there should we should take into account the overall demand to enable the public to accept it. We will put in a pilot scheme in the North District. The franchise bus operators and the transport department will make preparation. While rationalizing the bus routes, we will set down a clear timetable when it comes to reduction or cancellation of underutilized routes, and we will have in-depth discussion with various political parties, hoping to forge a consensus. The second point, interchange services. We will increase our effort in this area. At the end of December last year, we have commissioned the Tuen Mun Road bus interchange. It's a very good case in point. It is very appealing, and there are a lot of different routes going through this interchange, and the facilities at this interchange has been improved. We will study the feasibility of for setting up a similar interchange at other areas. And we will seize the opportunity of the commissioning of new lines. In the coming 2 years, there will be 4 new railway lines within the territories. A lot more people will be switching to railway transport, so bus route rationalization should be enhanced. We will communicate and liaise with the community. The second area, review of the MTR fare adjustment mechanism. MTRCL is a public utility with the government holding a share of about 77%. But it's not just another private enterprise. It has been supporting the development of government's mass transport policy, and it's granted the right to carry out property development projects above stations along the railway lines for some financially non-viable railway projects. We think the MTRCL's development should respond to the need and aspiration of the community and support government's public transportation policy. The government is aware the general aspiration of the service and fares of the MTRCL over the years. The administration is conducting a 5-yearly review of the fare adjustment mechanism with the MTRCL under the operating agreement signed in 2007. Our objective is to enhance the coverage with a view to incorporating service performance and profitability of the corporation as well as public affordability. These factors are those the government takes into account when considering fare adjustment proposals put forward by franchised public transport operators. We don't think the MTRCL should be an exception. We hope to arrive at a win-win agreement with the MTRCL. We hope that through the win-win agreement, the community can share the fruit of MTRCL's success while laying a more solid foundation for the next stage of strategic development. A third key area is to improve the traffic distribution among the different harbour crossings. The public is very concerned about the congestion at Cross Harbour Tunnel, because it will in turn affect the traffic in the nearby area. We hope to improve the traffic distribution among the different harbour crossings, thereby alleviating the traffic congestion at the Cross Harbour Tunnel. We will increase the relatively low tolls of the Cross Harbour Tunnel, while at the same time reduce tolls of the Eastern Harbour Crossing to provide incentive for motorists to switch to the Eastern Harbour Crossing to achieve a traffic diversion and ease congestion. Adjusting the toll for the Eastern Harbour Crossing will not ease the traffic congestion at the Cross Harbour Tunnel. So we think that the tolls of the Cross Harbour Tunnel should be increased while those for the Eastern Harbour Crossing should be reduced. Before the shut-in before the Central Wang Chai bypass is commissioned, we think that we should explore other ways to improve the traffic situation. We have already in place a number of proposals when it comes to the fare adjustments. When it comes to the toll fees, we will consult the public and the relevant panels and committees in this regard. The fourth key area is the review of the fare adjustment arrangement. The fourth key area is in relation to the railway development strategies. We have a number of railway lines. They are the West Island Line, South Island Line, East Kwun Line extension. They are expected to be commissioned by 2020. It will cover areas over 70% of where the population lives. We are at the moment launched the study for the review and update of the Railway Development Strategy 2000. We have last year conducted the Stage 1 public consultation exercise to consult the public on the proposals of three of the major regional railway corridors. We've got very good response. The second public consultation exercise or public engagement exercise will commence in the first quarter of this year and will focus on local enhancement schemes for existing railway lines. We will conduct a comprehensive review of the future railway development strategy and map out our future development blueprint that can meet transport demand in a cost-effective manner. We hope the public will actively participate in the discussion so that we can work together in mapping out our future railway network. Transport is heavily related to economic development and people's livelihood. In this regard, we will continue to cooperate with legislators and district councillors to improve our transportation network to meet future demand. Thank you. There are 4 members who have raised their hands. 4 minutes each. Wong Kwok King, Elizabeth Kwok, Tan Ka Pil, Kwok Ka Ki, Uchi Wai, Frankie Yick, Long Kok Hong, Ronnie Tong, Virginia Ip, and Pun Siu Ping. Hello. Chung Kwok Pen, Chen Hang Pen, Mr. Wong Kok King. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions for the Secretary. First, I noticed that when it comes to the rationalization of bus routes, the Secretary mentioned about an area approach. I have a proposal to make. All cross-harbour buses, after they have crossed the harbour, charge a higher fare compared to buses running along the same length and in the same area. So once the cross-harbour tunnel, cross-harbour buses cross the harbour, it will charge a higher fare than similar buses. So we urge bus operators to reduce the fare of these tunnel buses to a level comparable to other buses. Will they have better facilities? They are more energy efficient. The facilities, the seats are better, and it is less polluting. So people will switch to it, and it will be much better.
About the fare adjustment mechanism of railway lines, can the government consider that when the railway has a big surplus, that part of the profits will be allocated to set up a fare stabilization fund? We should not allow the railway companies to earn excessive profits. Can the government consider these 2 points? Secretary? Yes. Bus rationalization routes, our aim is to make better use of resources. So for underutilized bus routes, we hope to be rationalizing the bus routes. And how to provide an incentive for passengers to support rationalization, and also the bus companies can support the bus routes rationalization. In considering the bus routes rationalization, we can further consider that. Now on the railway FAM, earlier on in a motion debate in the electrical, members have raised many suggestions, including whether we can set up a fare stabilization fund. In my remarks made from the administration's point of view, the government doesn't plan to allocate money from the government coffers to set up the fund. If we are doing that, is equal to the administration subsidizing the railway operation. Well, Chairman, I'm suggesting that profits from the railway company be allocated for this purpose. Now, in the motion debate, we said that if MTRCL allocates part of its profits to set up a fare stabilization mechanism, then that's all right. In our discussion with the MTRCL, we are now exploring various options. Chairman, I still have a few seconds. I hope that the government can seriously consider lowering the fares of cross-harbour buses when they have crossed the harbour, so that the members of the Hong Kong public can benefit more. I'm sure that it will win the support from everyone in the community, and then the resources of cross-harbour buses can be fully utilized. Secretary, on the FAM of MTRCL, well, when will you hold discussions with the company? Yes, we are closely liaising with them. We hope that by March 2013 there will be some progress and results. So we will get an agenda item on that subject. Ms. Elizabeth Quat, I've got 3 questions. I hope that I have sufficient time. The first is about the uneven distribution of traffic flow of the 3 cross-harbour tunnels or harbour crossings. Now the government now has this proposal of increasing the toll fares for cross-harbour tunnel and reducing the tolls of the Eastern Harbour Crossing. But a lot of people are telling us that the EHC is already quite congested during peak hours in the morning, and the traffic congestion extends right up to the Eastern Island corridor. So is this a feasible option? Can we have more data to support this proportion? Second question. Now, if we are subsidizing the Eastern Harbour Crossing, is that a reasonable way of doing it? DAB and other people have suggested whether we should, the government should buy back the Western Harbour Crossing so that the flow of traffic at the 3 tunnels can be evened out. The government makes no mention of Western Harbour Crossing in this policy address. Is it not going to do anything about it? About the bus fares, the adjustment mechanism, we're not very satisfied with the bus company's accounts. I think the KMB is playing around with the figures, and the items which are earning a profit have been taken out of the financial accounts, and it seems that it's making a loss all the time. So will the government consider that in the review, and will it consult the public? Now, we've got this illegal car racing problem, and great noise nuisance is created, especially in Changguan. We've received a number of complaints on Fridays and Saturdays. There are a lot of car racing activities and creating a lot of noise nuisance. So in illegal car racing and illegal car retrofitting, will it be doing something about the distribution of traffic flow among the 3 cross-harbour tunnels, I said that we will be doing a public consultation, and overall direction is based on what the consultants here suggested, that we will increase the tolls at the Cross Harbour Tunnel and reduce the tolls of the Eastern Harbour Crossing. But as for the details, I agree that we need to give more data and details, and we'll be coming up with a formal report and doing a proper consultation exercise so that the public can discuss the various options. Now, on the fare adjustment arrangement for franchised bus companies, this is something that we will review within this year, and by then we will be coming up with a detailed report for the panel to discuss and consider. So the members of the public may be able to give their views around those times. Now, about illegal car racing, its problems in noise nuisance and traffic congestion. I think the Transport Department has been paying attention to this problem all along. The Commissioner of Transport, please. Yes, on illegal car modification and illegal car racing, well, in fact, they are serious offences, criminal offences. We've been liaising closely with the police, and the police has been collecting intelligence and mounting operations to clamp down on the activity. If members of the public have information in this regard, they can hand it over to the police or the TD directly, and we will follow up. Chung Kwan-o seems to be suffering in particular. Well, in fact, the residents have been making a lot of complaints, and it seems that the government has not been doing anything. Well, we hope that the Commissioner can work closely with the police, and Ms. Kwat has pointed out a particular problematic area. So I hope that you can step up your supervision during night time. Next one, Mr. Tan Ka-Piu. Thank you, Chairman. And on traffic congestion, I hope that the administration can do some studies. In the past 5 years, actually, the number of private cars has increased by as many as 80,000. Particularly, there are more Sunday drivers, and I hope that you can do some study and assessment. Now, the New World First Bus is cancelling a lot of bus trips too, and I don't know what the reasons are, and I think that the government should do a flow assessment study, or else the bus situation will be deteriorating. Now, on the tunnels, I want to know whether you want to divert taxis or goods vehicles to the Eastern Harbour Crossing. Now, for taxis, the Cross Harbour Tunnel, the fare is $10, and Eastern Harbour Crossing is $25. So only 21% of the taxis are using Eastern Harbour Crossing, while 10% is using Cross Harbour Tunnel. Now, if you are thinking of diverting the goods vehicles to the EHC, then the subsidy will be very heavy, because there is a difference of $20 versus $50. Then you will be paying out a lot of subsidies. Well, I want to hear more from the government. What kind of cars do you want to divert to the EHC? My third question relates to FAM. No matter how you adjust the formula, even if you are talking about an increase of 0.1%, the public is not going to support it, because the MTRCL is earning such a huge profit. Now, even if it is making such billions of dollars in profit, it is still proposing a fare hike. So I don't know what you're going to do to allay people's worries. For this particular session, I'm not going to talk about the details of the various topics, because it will not be fair to the members, because we've got various options here, and they should be examined in more detail. And we will have a formal agenda item to discuss this. But put simply, the consultant is of the view well, in fact, in the last term of the electrical and the transport panel, we have discussed that we should have some economic incentives to divert drivers to other harbour crossings so that the CHT will not be so congested. But what impact it will be making on various types of vehicles, that is something that we have to assess. And what is the impact, overall impact on the society? We'll also look into it, and we'll come up duly with a paper on the various scenarios. We don't have fixed opinions or options now. And on the FAM of MTRCL, we have heard the electrical's views. We would be also considering the service performance, its profitability and public affordability. We think these three factors are reasonable. In considering proposals of fare rises by franchised bus companies, these same factors apply. So as to how to implement these factors is something that we are discussing with the MTRCL. Now, on traffic congestion, the biggest car number increase comes from private cars. If we are to reduce the increase, we might have to resort to financial measures which are quite controversial in the society. So drivers may not want to drive if the road is too congested. But in any case, we want to make sure that there is a smooth flow of traffic on roads. Now, on the missed trips of New World First bus, Commissioner, please. Yes, we are closely monitoring the situation on a daily basis. If we notice that the missed trips are many, we will advise them to make improvement. If the situation is serious, we will issue to them a warning. On Hong Kong Island particularly, there are several reasons for these missed trips. One is traffic congestion. We've got very good statistics on missed trips. Sometimes it's because of roads changing the road routes, and we will also look at whether there is any. It's got to do with the management of the bus captains. Anyway, we are urging them to make improvements. We will stringently monitor in the days ahead. Please continue to keep a close eye on the missed trips of buses. Well, today I don't want to go into details of minor issues, although we are all very concerned about these issues. Today is really a briefing on the outline of transport policies as stated in the policy address. We want to talk about overall directions. We will have plenty of opportunities in the future to discuss the details. Mr. Kokaki, Chairman, and I'm very disappointed with the 5-year policy, transport policy in the policy address. We don't want details, but rather how the transport policies can tie in with improving people's livelihood. Now, the FAM cannot resolve important problems. In remote areas like Tuen Mun, Tin Shui Wai, the basic fare is very high. It takes up around 20% of the household income. No matter how you change the FAM, even if you are not making any fare rises at all, you will not be able to help this group of people. When you talk about the transport subsidy, basically it's not a transport subsidy per se, but a subsidy or allowance for low-income families. So if you don't change the structure of the fare, then it doesn't help at all. the further you live, the more problems you face. You've promised them a lot of benefits, but they aren't being realized at the moment. Now, when we raised our objection, you said that there is nothing we can do because the NTRCL has to take care of the interests of the small shareholders. So, looking at FAM alone doesn't help. But whether the government should really look at the fair structure and the fair policy overall, that's more important.
But the second point is about traffic congestion. You know that there is overlapping of some bus routes, and some bus routes overlap with the railway lines when it comes to major transport corridors, and like Nathan Road. There is a traffic congestion. You do not have a clear picture of the overall transportation network, and you don't have the determination to do something. I don't think you have the vision to actually do something when it comes to your proposed toll reduction of the Cross Harbour Tunnel and the toll increase in the Eastern Harbour crossings. Well, sometimes what I hear is that people are stuck in traffic in the Eastern Harbour crossing. And 2016, the Eastern Harbour crossing will be transferred back to the government. You did not touch the Western Harbour crossing. You have to conduct public consultation, and it'll be in 2014. But in 2016, you will have to be accountable when it comes to the two harbour crossings. Are you only going to increase the Cross Harbour Tunnel toll further? In 2016, you will own both tunnel crossings, because that by then the administration will be able to determine the toll levels. So will you revert the toll fare of Cross Harbour Tunnel? By then, some people are forced to use the Cross Harbour Tunnel because they live in Wan Chai and they work in Jordan. They have to use the Cross Harbour Tunnel. They can't possibly use the Eastern Harbour Crossing. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. The administration talk about the railway development strategy, and there is going to be an update and review. In the past, when it comes to a review, we don't know whether they will take into account bus and railway service. In this review, will you combine the two together? You're talking about further enhancement schemes for existing railway lines. There will be duplication of bus services, and it may in turn generate a vicious competition. The Tuen Mun Road bus interchange proved to be a success. You mentioned about the North District, but would you consider the urban area? Because we have very high pollution, very serious pollution in the urban area. If in the short run you can provide an interchange, that will be good. Say, for example, in Kowloon East, it is a suitable location. Will you earmark a location for a bus for an interchange there? My next point. Bicycle-friendly and pedestrian-friendly initiatives. Would it be like BFA, barrier-free access, and put in some details to show us that it is not just a talk shop? When it comes to bicycle-friendly, you said in the new development area there will be bicycle-friendly environment provided. So will you include policies related to encouraging the public to use bicycles as a mode of transport in your policy? When it comes to the review of railway development strategy, we're going to have the stage 2 public engagement exercise soon to collect views from the public. When it comes to bus operators and railway services, we've made it very clear that the administration's policy is to use our railway network as the backbone. So it's a public transportation network revolving around a railway-based network complemented by bus services. When a new railway line is commissioned, bus routes may be adjusted. And of course, we'll take into account the operation of bus services. In the future, we will give more details and listen to members' views. When it comes to the interchange, I will defer to the Commissioner for more information. We have to find a land for interchange. When it comes to pedestrian and bicycle user-friendly environment, we have heard members' views on various occasions. We do think that we should make more specific policy. As soon as we have an idea, we will revert to this panel. Could you please let the Commissioner answer first? Apart from Tuen Mun Road, we are exploring the feasibility of putting in an interchange on 2 occasions in the North District. We agree that there is a need in urban area, but it's difficult for us to find land to have a bus interchange in the urban area. With densely developed area, we may not have large-scale interchange, but there are interchange arrangements already in place. They may be small-scale interchange facilities, but we aim to improve the facilities over there and also improve the fare savings. What about Kai Tak? The Commissioner has already said that it's difficult for them to find land, but they are aware of the need. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. This Chief Executive is like he's possessed by Chiang Kai-shek. He appoints a lot of committees to solve problems. Well, you should have told me earlier. I did not. You are not elected to form various committees. You should have said it in your manifesto that you would act like Chiang Kai-shek, that you will appoint a lot of committees. And I want to know how many more committees is he going to set up under transport. If you have 5 in mind, I will not say any more. Legislators are elected by the public. These members of committees are not elected. There is a bunch of lone supporters being appointed. Civil servants are just left aside. I was thinking about what I could do. It would be better for me to join one of the committees. But I wasn't selected. What am I supposed to do? I'm very disappointed. We have so many committees and committee members. We're actually ruled by committees. I think the Chief Executive, Leung Chun-ying, owes Hong Kong people. When will he exercise his power to take back the MTRC so that it will genuinely belong to the people? Well, we're talking about economies of scale, of course. So one policy will affect other transport policies. you pocketed over 20%, and then you said you have no say in the operation of the railway services. But at the moment, 23% of the shareholders are making decisions over the 77% as shareholder. I have ridden the National Railway in Stockholm, but I've never been on a railway service on a railway network on the mainland, so I don't know what the situation is over there. The second point. Tunnel crossings. They are very important harbour crossings, but you cannot nationalize it. So people are stuck at the Cross Harbour Tunnel. Kam-lam asked me to talk about trivial things. Well, will there be a committee to study on the nationalization of tunnel crossings? If there is one, I would like to join. Chairman, let me be brief. Just now, Mr. Leung mentioned about committee. We have only one. We have the Transport Advisory Committee. It has been there for a very long time. There are already a lot of committees, advisory committees, and now C.Y. Leung has made up more. Secretary, you have heard Mr. Leung. He's very interested in joining the Transport Advisory Committee. Mrs. Regina Ip. The Chief Executive says he is going to relax the moratorium of Kam-lam and the Central District. People are very concerned about the the impact on transport. And I attended a radio program. There was an academy for international cuisine, and there are already 2,000 students there. And we expect traffic congestion will worsen. How are you going to deal with this? About the mid-levels and Kam-lam moratorium, the administrative measure, the Chief Executive said in his policy address that he will study about the relaxation or lifting of the moratorium. Assuming that it is relaxed or lifted, it doesn't mean that we do not attach any importance on the impact on transport in the area. This is not the only area with the moratorium. When it comes to other areas or new development areas, they will have to go through the same process. They will have to go through town planning, and impact on transport and the environment will have to be assessed. Of course, if it is relaxed and there are new developments, there will be an impact on pedestrian flow and vehicular flow. We will take that into account when it comes to railway development. Well, that is similar when it comes to changing residential use changing industrial uses into residential uses. We have the Hong Kong PSG, Hong Kong standards and guidelines, and when the case goes to town planning, members will ask questions on impact on the various areas. So you are saying that if the moratorium is lifted, or there is rezoning from industrial to residentials, it would be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And today we're talking about transport.
Whenever approval is to be given, transport has to be taken into consideration. The Secretary has not responded to my question on South Island Line. The second phase PE exercise and local enhancement works that will be discussing the South Island Line East. Now, the government is thinking of lifting the moratorium restrictions. You haven't really considered whether railway would be resorted to resolving possible traffic congestion. Now, actually, in the policy address, it's saying that we are considering and not considering whether to lift the moratorium, and not a decision has been made. Now, if we assume the moratorium is going to be lifted, it doesn't mean that the traffic issue will not be considered. What is the timetable of the study on traffic? Well, this is not under the purview of the THB, but rather it has to do with planning. Now, we can touch on all these issues when we talk about railway development in the future. Mr. Frankie Yik, the chairman, says that there are 5 local railway networks which we commissioned gradually, and they will cover 70% of the living areas in Hong Kong. They are definitely going to impact on other transport modes like taxis, PLBs, and so on. The business is going to be affected, and the passenger numbers may decrease, and that would necessarily lead to a price hike or fare hike. Now, the government, you're talking about developing a long-term railway strategy. I've been proposing all along whether the administration should conduct a 4th overall transport study. If you don't conduct that study, you will not be able to ascertain whether there is enough business for the other public transport modes. If the business can be expanded, then that's a good thing. But then, if the business, the room for operation is going to be lessened, then they would be asking for fare increases year after year, and that we'll have to deal with that later on. On car parks in urban areas, particularly the coaches, and most of them are now parked in the site vacated by the Kai Tak Airport. There are around 1,000 coach spaces. Now, as Kai Tak is going to be developed, the car spaces maybe have to be taken back. So where are these coaches going to be parked in the future? So in the 4th overall transport study, should it also include the issue of car parking space? This is a serious issue. Secretary, please. Yes, Mr. Yik is right. If we have new railways, then that is going to have an impact on other public transport modes. Although railway is the backbone of our public transport, it doesn't mean that we don't develop other public transport modes so that people can have better choices. So we will take into consideration passengers' needs and impact on other public transport modes when we develop railways. Mr. Yik also mentioned whether we should conduct the 4th overall transport study. I have given a written reply earlier. We plan that after we've completed the railway study, we would embark on a study on the overall transport needs in Hong Kong. When it comes to car park spaces, in my response to an oral question in LegCo, I said that it's time for us to conduct another review on car parking spaces. Yes, so you are definitely going to conduct a car park space review. On the 4th overall transport study, is it true that you said you would consider but not decide on whether that study is going to be taken? Now, after the railway study has been completed, we will be conducting that study. Mr. Poon Xiuping. Thank you, Chairman. In the policy address, the railway is considered as the backbone of public transport, and the buses will play a complementary role. Now, in major feeder bus stations like Admiralty, it's very congested during peak hours. And this people are very dissatisfied with the situation already. And although railway is the backbone, BLBs, ferries are playing an important role too, and a number of people survive on those businesses too. So when you are drawing up your overall transport policy, what role should these other public transport modes play? I think we should give them room for survival in the long term. Now, on the FAM of MTRCL, you said you would hope to arrive at a win-win agreement in early this year. Can you tell us what your present considerations are? What I'm worried that is just a one-side win arrangement and not a win-win situation. So can the Secretary elaborate more on this? And that's also raised by Mr. Frankie Yick. As I said, Chairman, when we complete the review on railway, we can more comprehensively look at the overall transport situation in Hong Kong and plan for how other public transport modes can tie in with the railway. As for the FAM of MTRCL, as I said in my opening remarks, we are discussing very closely with the MTRCL, and our bottom line is that the formulas must be adjusted to incorporate service performance, profitability, and public affordability as factors in the formula. MTRCL is not like any other listed company, and it has its own unique history, and it has to tie in with Hong Kong's overall transport policy. The administration has a very unique relationship with MTRCL, but it doesn't mean that the administration or the government doesn't look at how MTRCL is performing. So in review of the FAM, we will see how MTRC is going to work in tandem with other public transport modes. Now, are there any measures to improve the interchange for feeder bus service? We've been reminding MTRCL of the need to provide convenience to passengers in their services, including the interchanges for feeder bus services. MTRCL has improved its services and increased its frequencies. And actually, the service is really coming to a saturated level, especially in the Island Line. We know that the public demand is high, and the trains are very congested. How are we going to deal with it? In the second PE exercise, this is something that we would focus on. Mr. Ronnie Tong. In the policy address, transport takes up less than 2 pages. In paragraph 171, is that there should be long-term planning. But there isn't much substance in these 2 paragraphs, regrettably. So you are saying that you are going to conduct a consultation on long-term railway development strategy? I really don't get it. You said that you are going to conduct a consultation on the exploration of local enhancement schemes like existing railway lines. And then you go on to talk about MTR fare adjustment mechanism. And then you said that the property development projects above stations along railway lines is part of the mass transport policy, but you don't go on to elaborate what the purpose is. Now, some people say that it's really for subsidizing certain sectors of the or certain areas of the MTRCL which is making a loss. Now, if that is the case, would you be including that in the FAM formula as well, and then limit the fare increase proposed by the MTRCL? You simply said that you are going to continue to consider that, and you don't seem to be making a valid point here. So what kind of policy address is this? Now, on diversion of traffic, you want to increase the toll fare for Cross Harbour Tunnel and then reduce the toll fare for Eastern Harbour Crossing. We've been talking about this for so many years. It's just some short-term measure, and it shouldn't make a part of the policy address. We should come up with long-term strategies. On the long term, we should tell Hong Kong people how the management of the Cross Harbour tunnels will be like in the future. Now, in 2016, the Eastern Harbour Crossing is going to be returned to the government. And you don't even mention about 2016 for the EHC. So how can you say that you are planning for long term? Now, so can you tell us whether the profits generated by property development be included in the FAM? And then thirdly, what is the long-term strategy for the road harbour crossings? I'll be brief. On the long-term railways development strategy, we talked about that in the last term of government. It's going to be divided into two phases. One is cross-region railway corridors, and then the second part is local enhancement works. We'll have to listen to the views of the districts and also members from this panel. So this is not something of no substance. And it seems that, after public consultation, we'll definitely proceed with concrete work. Now, on the fare adjustment mechanism of MTRC, we've undergone a very detailed motion debate. In the policy address, in operating railways, we have given the right to develop property projects to MTRC. We have a specific model of doing that. Why we are mentioning this particular point, we just want to demonstrate that it's not like any other listed enterprises or companies, and you have to tie in with the government's mass transport policy. And as to whether the development projects can be incorporated as an element in the FAM, that is something that is going to be included in the discussion of between the government and the MTRCL. There are still 9 members wanting to ask questions. We have to be very quick. Mr. Chung Kwok Pen. Also on the railway as the backbone and the buses as a supplementary transport modes. From in 2020, 70% of Hong Kong land will be covered by railways. Now, we know that all along, the bus routes rationalization is something that the public has been asking for a long time. If from 2014 onwards, new railways will be commissioned. So what will be the timetable for bus routes rationalization? How many bus routes will be reduced? I think that will help in alleviating traffic congestion and raising air pollution. The bus company is saying that 70% of their routes are making a loss. That's why they propose a fare increase.
Every year we work on bus routes rationalization because there is varying demand in the district and there is change in passenger or demand level. So we're not just going to artificially reduce the bus route. There are some bus routes that are underutilized, so resources are not used to its best, and so there is a need, because of these factors, that there is going to be a bus rationalization. So, and sometimes some other bus operators can offer similar services in the area. So if resources cannot be used to an optimal level, we need to rationalize it. And in some cases, the number of buses can be reduced. As I said in my opening speech, I have covered the figures of reduction of buses over the years as a result. We hope to get more opinions or different comments from the district in our discussion. Mr. Poon. Bus operators are willing to reduce or rationalize their bus routes. And starting from 2014, some railway lines will be commissioned. So what other factors do we have to take into account? Is there strong resistance from the district in bus route rationalization? Is that the main reason? In the past, when we deal with bus route rationalization or adjustments in frequencies, indeed, in different districts there are different opinions. We try to listen to them as far as possible. This year's policy address stresses on bus routes rationalization, hopefully to benefit from it on different levels, to have better use of resources and to reduce pollution and many other benefits. And recently, the Audit Commission has announced a report on pollution levels in Hong Kong. The Secretary in his paper has given a lot of information about various development of transport, but we don't see anything about marine transport. Ferry policies, which have been discussed widely in the community, has been left out. We know that ferry fares are high, especially those running between the islands. DAB once made proposals about the operation of island services, and they say that the government should fund the operation. Operation will be handed over to ferry operators to ensure a low and reasonable fare. And there should be a fuel stabilization fund for island ferry services. That's my first question. My second question, railway services is conducive to development of different regions. The Railway Development Strategy 2000 first stage public consultation was completed. I think there is some biased information in the consultation paper. There is something unfair about information given in relation to railway services. There are proposals about extending one of the lines to Sha Tin. Will the administration first disclose the views collected from the first stage public engagement exercise before embarking on the second stage? Secretary, let me ask the second question first. In relation to the railway development strategy, there are two consultations. First is the major regional railway corridors, and the second part is local enhancement schemes. There are discussions in the community and in the panel as well. Well, if you have some views about the Tuen Mun railway lines, and you can give us your comments. Yeah. Later, well, when we review the ferry services, we will take into account of difficulties encountered. We will also consider factors such as whether they need assistance from the government. About the review you mentioned, when will it be? What about fuel stabilization fund? Will the administration consider it? Will you give me a timetable? You mentioned about the Tuen Mun railway. I said the consultation paper contains biased information because there is no diagram when it comes to other railway lines. When it comes to the Tuen Mun railway line consultation, there is a picture showing a viaduct right in front of a residential estate. You show this picture to scare people off so that they won't support the Tuen Mun railway line. Is that the case? Well, we've heard the members comment, and in the future when we find photographs we'll be extra careful. We don't intend to scare people off. And of course, when it comes to public utilities, there is a review period, and we will revert back to the panel later. Mr. Chow Ai-chun. The policy said that tackling housing problem is of utmost importance. When it comes to development of railway lines, they would like it to be highly efficient and affordable. I heard from the policy that there will be more efforts devoted to improve mass transportation. Some members mention about property development rights of railway lines. I believe the majority of the profits generated by the railway operator come from income from the shopping malls. But income from the shopping mall is related to efficient railway transportation. So will you consider that when the rental income reaches a certain level, the administration will share the profit to maybe subsidize railway development or fair level? I believe the rate of return from these shopping malls is higher than the rate of return of the Hong Kong MA, more than 4%. Very often, the longer the journey, the higher the fare, because more time spent on it. Of course, different legislators will have their reasons. When it comes to fare structures, perhaps that it should not be based on the length of the journey. If you charge a lower fare for longer journeys, say for example journeys to Tung Chung, you will attract more passengers, and in turn it will energize the local economy in Tung Chung. First, when it comes to fare structure, long-haul journeys and short-haul ones, whether it is necessary for us to, whether there is any need to review it, we're looking into it. When it comes to property income, currently, about 20% of the profit of the MTRCL comes from fare, 20% comes from shopping malls and commercial activities in the stations. When it comes to property development rights above stations, as I've said that in the past, it's always been given to the MTRCL on the basis that it being a means to finance the development and construction of the railway line. So we have to assume in our calculation that is to subsidize railway lines that may encounter financing difficulties. Pedestrian flow may be boosted after the railway service has been put into service, and this is a positive impact for the MTRCL. And we've always told the MTRCL that the development plan is not like any other listed company. It will not deviate much from our mass transportation policy. Ms. Sang Chang. Well, I was asked to comment on the general picture. I see that in the policy address, when it comes to planning on transport, it is seriously lacking. I don't see any planning on tunnels or highways. Say, for example, one of the proposals DAB made to you is about the 3 harbour crossings. There are a couple of problems. First, uneven distribution of traffic. The second point, traffic congestion. And you talk about using one crossing to subsidize the other. But the basic problem is that for the 3 tunnel crossings, they have almost reached the saturation point. There are proposals to construct another cross-harbour tunnel, and it will take more than about 10 years to plan for one. Highways. If you drive from Kowloon to the North District or to the mainland, you have to use Tit King's Tunnel and Lime Rock Tunnel. And if you drive from Hong Kong Island, you'll have to use Eagle's Tunnel. In the future, when there is the Yantown, they will have to drive eastward. They will, no matter whichever route they take, they will be stuck at Tung Lo Harbour. Before they reach Fanling Highway, there is a bottleneck at Tolo Highway, and in the past year or two, there has always been congestion. I think it's high time for you to plan for this. First, about the 3 tunnels. To improve the traffic distribution among the 3 tunnels, well, that is one of our work area. It's not really mentioned in the policy address. Shortly, we will announce the different options for consultation, and we'll come to this panel to listen to members' views.
As for on a long-term basis, whether we need a 4th cross-harbour tunnel, I've heard Dr. Zhang's view, and I believe that in the long term we don't rule out such an option. Now, on highways, we have strived to ensure that the traffic on highways is smooth, and we've been undertaking constant planning on highways. The Commissioner for Transport, maybe he can speak on the Tollo Harbour Highway. Now, improvement work to Tollo Harbour Tunnel is ongoing. From Shelton to Taipo, that section has been widened to 4 lanes. From Taipo to Taihang, works are going on. It started in 2009 as it's slated for completion in 2014. And further north, from Taihang to Fanlang, the second phase expansion or widening plan is ongoing. The tender work is now being undertaken, and we hope to come to the panel or the electrical for fund application very soon. I've got 4 to 5 members who are going to speak. James To, Christopher Chung, Abraham Shek. I'll draw a line here. Mr. James To. The next agenda item is going to be relatively simple. So I would ask you to be brief, and the Secretary can also provide a brief response, because members are repeating the questions. If that's such as the case, please do not repeat the questions. Chairman, on paragraph 39. You said that you have consulted the public on tightening up the personal data of vehicle owners, and that raised a lot of controversy. And you said that you've done consultation and you are going to make an amendments. I urge you to be prudent. Perhaps you may have neglected the concern of the media on investigative reporting. Now, you said that if no purpose of application is declared, say if a car has collided and then the case was reported to the police, and of course all the details, particulars can be provided. But in the case of a car collision, and then the car driver would just take out a civil litigation, then an investigation has to be conducted. Now, if in such cases the address is not going to be provided, how can a summon be served, or the mails be served on the concerned driver? So the situation is rather complicated, and also cars may be bought and sold. And in some cases, the identity of the driver may be related to the incident concerned. So would that the hidden uses of the particulars be listed? The media is also concerned about cases like people or celebrities meeting secretly, and that in those kind of cases, the particulars would not be made available to the media. So once the legislation is going to be tightened up, then it will, a lot of the functions could not be carried out smoothly in the society. If you are going to tighten the regulations, you are going to meet with a lot of resistance. Yes, please be brief. I understand members' concern on these types of personal information, and the concern relating to the company's ordinance. We've discussed the topic in the TAC, and we've also consulted the relevant stakeholders like the Law Society, and we will come up with a formal amended proposal, and we'll take it back to the panel, and you can take a look again to see if it's reasonable and fair. And would you pay concern or attention to giving exemption to the media on investigative reporting? Yes, I'll wait. I will submit a formal paper later on. Okay. Mr. Lee Chak-yan, the living costs are getting higher. You are looking after the areas of housing and transport. Now, in the policy address, there are 2 paragraphs on transport, and one is on the FAM of MTRCL. And under this existing mechanism, even if it is making a $14.7 billion profit, and it can ask for a fair rise of 5%, and you are really conniving at such acts, profiteering acts of the MTRCL. And actually the traveling expenses of people are getting higher and higher, amounting to over $1,000 per month. So in your discussion with the MTRCL, you mentioned that you're going to include 3 extra factors. One is service performance, the other public affordability, and then the third, the profits. Are you going to come up with a definite formula, or just like the franchise bus companies, there will be a basket of indicators and then it would be put up for the consideration of the EXCO? Of course, we think that it would be best if the ELECTRO can look and sort of assess the adjustment. So are you taking back the right to decide on the fair adjustment and give it to the EXCO for consideration? Or are you just playing around with the formulas and still allow them to make a huge profit? If you don't take back the right to decide on the fare, how can you ensure that the public interest is well protected? Chairman, for franchised bus companies, the fare adjustment is decided by the EXCO on a basket of indicators, including their service performance, their profits, and public affordability. There are still some criteria, and we think the same should go to MTRCL. But of course, the MTRCL is a different in a different sort of status as bus companies. And by historical reasons, MTRCL is owned in the majority by the administration, and when the 2 railways merged in 2007, the administration signed the operating agreement with the railway company, and that the fair adjustment mechanism is put forth very clearly. So we are discussing the fair adjustment with them on that basis. If we can come up with a formula listing all the relevant factors and which are acceptable by the public, then that should work, and we should stay with the use of a formula. Well, I find it most strange. This is a railway owned in the majority by the administration, but it doesn't want to get back the right to decide on the fares. Now, every time we asked you, you said that you are putting on a different cap when you're considering the fare adjustment. So, well, I will be comfortable with the fact that you ask the MTRC not to increase a single cent if it is, as long as it is making a profit. Mr. James 10. Well, I thank Mr. Lee for building a platform for me to make my point further. I spent a lot of efforts in convincing or persuading political parties to endorse my proposal for the EXCO to endorse the fair adjustment for MTRCL. But it seems that the administration doesn't want to do that. You explained that already is because you have this operating agreement. You don't want to take on that responsibility, and you've wasted our efforts. That's all right. But if you are going to change the formula later on, now if you use the same formula with all these factors you have mentioned, it must be less than 5.4%, or else the society wouldn't find that acceptable. And if we can add in the proposal of issuing a monthly pass for people, then the proposal will get accepted by the public more readily. Rationalization of bus routes. In paragraph 191, it says that the bus companies can take into consideration the overall interest of the community in mind. At the district level, we need support from the administration to give us support so that we can convince local residents to support such bus routes rationalization. If you can give us some concessionary fares, then that would help us in persuading the local residents. My third question, the CE met with the New People's Party, and he agreed that the Northern Link is of great importance, but the Northern Link doesn't appear on the policy address. He said that at the end of February, he said it's very important. There are going to be 50,000 housing units built around the area, but it doesn't say anything about the Northern Link in the policy address. When will the Northern Link, the works on the Northern Link, commence? On the fare adjustment mechanism, in our discussions with the MTRC, we've heard many views from both within the LegCo and outside the LegCo, and we will definitely consider them, whether the fare structure can be adjusted, the possibility of issuing monthly passes, and when the new FAM is going to be implemented, whether it is the new fare structure is affordable by the public. Now, at this point, we will not be saying for sure whether the EXCO has a role to play in deciding on the fare. But then, in the operating agreement between the administration and the MTRCL, we will try as much as possible to stick to the use of a formula. If the formula can achieve its desired results, there is no need to go to the EXCO. Now, on bus routes rationalization, I hope to come up with a win-win situation, and the passengers have the incentive, and then the bus can benefit from phasing out underutilized routes. And to the public, there will be less traffic congestion, and the air quality can be improved. All these are benefits for the society. Now, on the Northern Link, on the railway development strategy, that was included in our first phase of planning. I've heard your views. Now, in the second phase PE exercise on local enhancement scheme, then we will consolidate the plans for the Northern Link. Now, so are you saying that if the fare increase is not less than 5.4%, you would be resorting to the EXCO option to decide on the fare increase? All right.
Mr. Abraham Sheikh, thank you, Chairman, for giving me a chance to ask questions, although I'm no member of this panel. I would like to follow up on a question asked by Mrs. Ip about the popular moratorium. From the transport perspective, I remember there was a transport study on pedestrian access from the north down to the south. There were 6 or 7 pedestrian escalator taking people down and up. Would you consider installing escalator from high up to alleviate the impact? Secretary, in my reply to Mrs. Virginia Ip, the administration is studying. Using the words of the policy address, we are seriously studying on whether to relax or lift the moratorium. But what we're talking about supporting facilities, the mid-level escalator from the mid-levels from the Western District, taking people from Kam-lam to Central, it may alleviate the impact on traffic. There has been some study on the escalator system. Would you take that into account as well? Well, the second point, even if the moratorium is relaxed, it will have to go through the town planning procedure. Assessment on impact will have to be conducted, and if it is feasible, and if pedestrian escalator system is to be installed, well, we will consider that. We have a program in place. It's about Kam-lam, about an escalator project. It is quite controversial in the community. Will you revert to the panel? Will you give us the past report? So we'll know how many escalators are proposed. It's not just about study. It's about how to alleviate the traffic congestion along Kam-lam Road and King Road. And you have to refer to that past report because it's touched on this issue. Perhaps I will ask if the Highways Department has anything to supplement. Mr. Low. Yes, Mr. Sheck is right in pointing out that there has been past study on mid-level escalator systems. And at that time, one location was selected on the pilot basis. Is the system from Soho to the mid-levels. What we saw is that it may not greatly reduce the demand for public transportation. Yes, we have a high utilization rate by pedestrian, but will it greatly reduce demand for public transport? So far, we have not seen it. Are we going to implement the recommendations in the report? We have to study it. In Main Street, we are conducting studies on the escalator system and one in Kam-lam. But at that time, there was no railway line. I'd like to declare that I'm a non-executive director of a railway operator. Back then, there was no railway service to the Western District. But now, time has completely changed. The transportation network has changed completely. And back then, it was very expensive. There was a land acquisition, etc. But the situation is completely different now. So you cannot use the factors in the past and apply them in the current situation. Yes, the process of planning process is different. Mr. Christopher Chung. I have 3 questions. I fully agree with your plan of railway development because it will alleviate traffic congestion and improve passenger flow. About the line extending to Siu Sai Wan, but there is only one road leading out from Siu Sai Wan. Every morning, 40 to 50,000 people going in and out of Siu Sai Wan, and there are 6 to 7 schools there. So, can you respond to people's demand. My second point in relation to the 3 tunnel crossings. You want to raise the toll fees for Cross Harbour Tunnel and reduce the that for the Eastern Harbour Crossing. But both tunnels are heavily congested. And in relation to the congestion at the Eastern Harbour Crossing, it extends all the way to the Eastern Harbour Corridor, Eastern Island Corridor. I don't think your proposed increase and reduction of toll fee will come to anything in the end. Last question, rationalization of bus routes. I think the crux of the problem lies in underutilization of tunnel buses. One child outside cell phone playground. If there are 6 buses there, then that section will be congested. So would you maybe consider it from the perspective of tunnel bus fares? If you're waiting from one child to go to Central, there are 30 to 40 bus routes that you can choose from. If they all charge the same fare, say $3 or so, then people will use the different bus routes. But now some charge a higher fare, so people will swarm to use those that are cheaper. So I do think that you need to consider it. This point has been mentioned by another member. When we consider bus route rationalization, we do not consider just the interest of bus operators. We try to achieve a win-win situation for all parties involved. And in relation to Siu Sai Wan, in the stage 2 public consultation exercise of the strategy review, we will look at different districts. We'll have to weigh up different factors, the local demand, cost effectiveness, benefits. And in relation to the toll fee adjustments, we're not just diverting attention. It will be abundantly discussed by the public and by the council. We've engaged consultants to help us. There will be an in-depth discussion in this regard. Mr. Chung, I think first you need to ask the consultants to get stuck in the traffic first. Otherwise, it will be meaningless for them to just do desktop research. Mr. Chung, I think the policy address attempts to depict a blueprint of future development. There are some short, medium-term housing measures, and it will in turn bring pressure on transport to different districts. The issue I'm concerned with is more visionary. In relation to paragraph 81 of the policy address, reclamation. There is now the stage 2 public consultation on feasibilities and technical feasibility. We're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 hectares. It may be just consultation. But when it comes to supporting transport facilities, you oversee the transportation of Hong Kong, which is very important. You need to have some forward-looking supporting transportation facilities in place, because we're talking about something huge, an artificial island. Yes, we need to discuss about the feasibility and the location of reclamation. Sometimes, because of insufficient information related to supporting transportation facilities, it has caused strong public outcry. You need to do better in your public consultation and your feasibility study. I'm not asking you to give us a proposal today. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that it's very important we strongly support long-term and forward-looking planning. Secretary, I agree fully with what Mr. Low said. When it comes to large-scale residential development or reclamation, it will have an impact on transportation, and we need supporting transportation facilities. I participate in all issues related to transport and housing. We will ensure there is transport infrastructure, and we'll also look into how much we can do and its feasibility. Thank you. Members have raised a number of key questions. I believe that this panel and the subcommittee on railway will follow up the relevant issues with the administration, say for example railway development strategy, the traffic direction of the 3 harbour crossing, and also the fare adjustment mechanism of the MTRCL. But we will stop here for the discussion of this agenda item. We'll now go on to the next agenda item. Amendments to the schedule to the Road Traffic Driving Offence Points Ordinance Cap 375. We invite government representatives to come in. We have with us the Undersecretary, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Housing, Mr. Patrick Chan, Assistant Commissioner of the Transport Department, Mr. Albert Su, Ms. Gillian Lam, Assistant Secretary for Transport and Housing, and Principal Transport Officer, Mr. Michael Ng. Undersecretary, would you please take us through the paper? Yes. I will make an opening remark first. This is in relation to some technical amendments to the schedule of the Road Traffic Driving Offence Points Ordinance. Since this is related to technical amendments, so you may not be familiar with the wordings and the texts. We propose to introduce some technical amendments to the schedule of Cap 375, that is the Road Traffic Driving Offence Points Ordinance, so that references to the provisions of the related traffic offences under the 4 Build, Operate, Transfer Tunnel bylaws will tally with those under the amended tunnel bylaws. These references include texts and section numbers. The proposed amendments will enable the incurrence of appropriate driving offence points against offenders convicted under the tunnel bylaws. Section 4 of Cap 375 specified that if a person is convicted of an offence listed in the schedule or becomes liable to a fixed penalty in respect of a scheduled offence, he shall incur the corresponding number of DOPs in respect of that offence.
Among the scheduled offences, some are traffic offences under the tunnel bylaws, like speeding or driving in contravention of the road markings. In the last term of LegCo, it approved the amendments proposed by the franchisees of the 4 BOT tunnels, namely the Eastern Harbour Crossing Road Tunnel, Tate's King Tunnel, Western Harbour Crossing, and Route 3. And at that time, the amendments are aimed at standardizing signage for auto toll lanes at these tunnels and aligning these bylaws with the government tunnel regulations. In standardizing the texts of the provisions on compliance with traffic signs, light signals and road markings in the tunnel areas of the 4 BOT tunnels, the references of the provisions have also been changed in view of the amendments to the texts. But then, the references to the tunnel bylaws in the schedule of CAP 375 have not been amended correspondingly in the same amendment exercise. So the two do not tally. But I must stress that the enforcement of the 4 tunnel bylaws is not affected by the inconsistencies between them and CAP 375 and the schedule. The tunnel companies can still penalize traffic offences according to the relevant provisions in the tunnel bylaw. However, to enable the incurrence of DOPs against persons who are convicted of traffic offences under the amended tunnel bylaws, the schedule of CAP 375 has to be amended to align the references therein with that of the traffic offences in the amended tunnel bylaws. I also suggest that in the schedule of 375, new scheduled offences be added. It would stipulate that the maximum speed limit for buses, medium goods vehicles, heavy goods vehicles, as well as motorcycles, motor tricycles, private cars, or light goods vehicles driven by a person holding a probationary driving license exceeds 70 kilometers, then they would be penalized and DOPs to be incurred against them. It is a technical amendment. And it is aimed at tallying inconsistencies in the two sets of regulations and bylaws, and to avoid any disputes. We hope to make amendments as soon as possible, and we hope to incur DOPs against those who commit an offense. Put simply, the 4 BOTs can penalize traffic offences for speeding and crossing continuous double white lines, and they can still do that. But the latest amendment to the CAP 375 is really to make possible incurrence of DOPs against those who commit an offence. Yes, you are right, Chairman. I just want to stress that this is put out clearly to avoid disputes in the future. Members, any questions from you? The amendment may have to be taken up by a working group or a subcommittee. It's an amendment to subsidiary legislation. Do members have any questions? If not, then we note the amendments, and we say that we don't have any objections. We will relay our views to the Health Committee. Thank you very much. If members don't have any other questions, and if we don't have any other business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.